Here's what happened. President Trump has just been sworn in to office here in the US. The LA fires have been, it seems like, mostly contained. And then there's a bunch of issues that a bunch of people are debating, arguing about online, in person. There's a lot happening. And the reminder for you is that there's always been a lot happening and there will be more things happening. But what can feel like what's coming up for you right now is pressure. This pressure when it comes to people telling you to believe in this cause or belief in this idea or try to get you to support this other thing that they're doing. And what's important is realizing that you don't have to do everything. It can feel like you're not doing enough. It can feel like for those things that are out of your control, you want to blame yourself without realizing, oh yeah, shit, that's out of my control. I can't do anything in that moment. And what happens is this pressure can build and build and build and turn into a pattern. And it's that pattern of blaming ourselves for what feels like everything. And I absolutely get you with this. You're not alone. And I want to get into it. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for being here. Could be doing a bunch of different stuff. Life. We were just talking about how there's a bunch of stuff going on. So by you being here, I want to say thank you. And if it's your first time here, welcome. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I have some commitments for you. The first one is the commitment to continue to grow this show. So by you subscribing and following, it super helps with that commitment. And then the second one is to share with you the true experience, to be honest with you. There have been so many moments in my past where I've lied and I haven't been able to share truly what the experience is like. And you can get a lot of that online, in person, from people where they're only sharing you like the snapshot rather than what was the true journey to get you to a certain point. And when I think about that for Make Burnout Extinct, it's that journey to get you to feeling that aliveness more often, to feeling more energized more often, and to be feeling that momentum in life of moving towards who it is you want to become, the vision that you have for your life. And that can get really exciting. But right now, it may not be feeling like that. And so I want to acknowledge where you're at and to remind you that where you start doesn't have to be where you end up. So thank you for being here. Fired up to get into it for today. What I want to talk about is this blame that we put on ourselves. It can be like the go-to, like where I just feel like it's this automatic system that can happen for us, where it's just you're starting to blame yourself constantly for things that happen. It's like, oh, my fault, my bad. Like those would be my go-tos that I'd say to people. And I didn't recognize that I had this pattern for a while. Like even I think about preparing for this convo with you. I was like, oh yeah, shit, this is a pattern. Just like anything else naturally that can happen with our bodies and how we're showing up in the world. It's been something that's been done repeatedly that has now become a pattern. And what's important that I want to do for you today is to help you with a perspective shift, to help you to take some space from this blaming that you're putting on yourself and those tornado thoughts that happen because of it, and to create some poking some holes into this illusion that's being created, and then sharing with you my own journey in this process of like, okay, how to be able to let go of that pressure that can be felt. And it's coming back to the body. That's so important in this journey, is coming back to the body, building the trust with the body, because what happens from that is then intense might be the right word in certain ways, because you have intense sensations from this, but it's building such a depth of confidence for yourself. I call it like this soul confidence of how you show up in this world, how you navigate your life and move towards who it is you want to become, the visions you have for your life, and being able to appreciate that journey when you look back. So to get into it, it's first asking why. Coming back to the why. Why do you blame yourself? I had to think about that for certain situations that come up. You may have one or two situations that are popping up right now where you've blamed yourself. Take some time. Like, let's take a deep breath here. We're going to do a deep inhale and release. Oh yeah, like shake it out. Even you can shake it out with the body. Another way to connect with the body is just shaking it out, feeling the body. Oh man, all right. Where are those moments that come up for you? Like the one or two that is hitting right now for where you've blamed yourself recently, and then asking yourself, why is that? So what could be some of the reasons I think about that for me would be, okay, I wanted to make other people comfortable. And then I would go through this questioning of why. I learned this from someone else for a different area of life, but I'm like thinking about it right now. This is coming into play that it can be so helpful for you. Is why do I want to make other people comfortable? Well, if I really lean into that, is because I am scared of what they'll do if they're not comfortable. Why am I scared of what they'll do if they're not comfortable? Well, I feel like they're going to become a threat to me. Why would I feel like they're going to become a threat to me? Well, because I've experienced in the past, anytime I would say something or do something that would cause friction for another person, or you could think about it as offending someone, or which without me thinking it was supposed to be like it was not intent to be or intended to be offensive, but it just happened where someone was having a bad day and they took out this anger on me, and that was through like arguing, through shouting, through yelling. And so that is what the fear is coming up for me. Is like, I don't want to be shouted at. I don't want to be attacked verbally or potentially physically. There's like that potential of that. I'm the youngest of three boys, so I'll leave it at that. It happened where, when it comes to those disagreements that happen. So that is why for that moment. And if that resonates for you, then that can help with a perspective shift, because what I want to tell you is that when it comes to these moments, we've built this pattern based off of potentially past experiences that isn't the reality in that moment. Does that make sense? I know you can't like tell me directly, but like, does that make sense? Where it's been built up, where a situation's in the past is now dictating how we're showing up in the present. And for me, that was one of those whys, was the fear that was coming up. And then the other one could be the perfectionism is another one that comes up. And these labels of perfectionism and label people pleaser, like I try to take away those labels and just get to the heart of like, what the hell is the pattern that's being built here? Well, okay, if I'm going to blame myself, the reason is because I did something like the situation didn't become the perfect situation. And if I had a part to play in that situation, then it must be my fault. It must be me. And that's where the blame can start to happen of like, dude, like, why didn't you show up and be able to put the reps in today for your habits that you wanted to get done? Maybe it was that workout. Like, why the hell didn't you show up and do that? Like, you're supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to get this done. You're supposed to be an example for your partner, example for the people closest to you. Like, what the hell are you thinking? So that could be something that's coming up. Well, why do I feel I have to be perfect? Well, it could be because in the past, situations, thinking back to if it's parents or people closest to you, I was never able to meet their high expectations. That could be a reason for you that comes up. You could also think like, wow, I just never could make them feel better. If that's mom, dad, you may have someone in your life where every time you try to do something, it just never helped them to feel better. And so you're like, there's something wrong with me. Like there's something that I'm not able to support them in some way. And like, it becomes this weird, twisted pattern where those tornado thoughts build within us. And the issue that happens, relating it back to burnout, is that it creates these open stress loops when we blame ourselves and we go down these tornado thoughts. It's going towards these stress loops that feel like they can never close because it's this internal dialogue that's happening. And so then what happens, and I've done it, is then I'll go into like ways to like numb out, and what I mean by that is like I'll watch movies, like a way to detach from the sensations in my body. What's a way to distract myself? I'll go into that. Watching movies has been helpful, shows, going on social media, just like any way, if that's conversations with people about something that's totally separate, just that's what would cause me to avoid the sensations coming up in my body and these tornado thoughts. But then the issue with that is I'm never closing out those open loops. So the blame just builds over time. And then it becomes a default pattern for situations that come up where things don't go my way or how I thought they were gonna happen. And so then I'm like, I'm blaming myself. And if that happens continuously, then you're hitting the chronic stress that then can lead into, for the body, the chronic inflammation. And then you're going down this one-way ticket to hitting burnout with hitting the first red flag of chronic exhaustion. And then it just creates that domino effect. So now I want to get into, okay, well, how do you let go of the pressure? It's like, how the hell do we let go of this pressure to want to blame ourselves for everything, what it feels like everything in our life? And it's an important change of a word for distinction. And it's this quote from, I've talked about him so many times here. It feels like on repeat. John Butcher, mentor, who has this quote where how it's said. Let me get to it. Let me think about it here. Oh yeah. So taking 100% responsibility for your life is one of the scariest and most rewarding things you can do for yourself. Something like that. May have changed the word from like rewarding to worth it, most worthwhile thing. But it comes back to responsibility, changing out blame to yourself, and how can you be responsible to yourself in these situations that unfold. So being responsible, that creates a proactive approach of changing a behavior in that situation to improve the situation that you're in. And when it comes to blame, that can feel like a stationary response of just blame, no action. And so things stay the same. And an example I have for you that I experienced just a few days ago was I was outside and I was recording a video. I was going to post it on social media, something related back to the body. I'm like, what the hell was I talking about? I don't know. I forget. But what I was doing was I was recording the video, and then it seemed like every few seconds, like I was really struggling with the video. It's just the words. That's something I struggle with, is like, okay, how to make sure I'm saying the words I want to say. And I can stumble through my words, and it's hard to do that all in 1 minute. So is my goal for these videos is like around 1 minute. And what happened was every few minutes I was getting an interruption. And I even would say a few seconds there would be an interruption. There would be a truck come by making a really loud noise, and it'd be the recycling truck. There would be a pickup truck that would come on by, and because I was right in front of the house, in the front, what's the word for that? The front lawn of the house. Then I had people walking by. You had people with dogs walking on by, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I don't want to look too weird here, like with doing this video. I don't want to be that guy. So then I'd stop, and I had all those tornado thoughts happening, and I was starting to actually blame myself. That was starting to come up of like, oh, dude, like, come on, man, like, what the hell is going on? And that's where I had to interrupt the pattern. And that's something that you can do, is literally interrupt the pattern. Recognize what is happening. You're going down the tornado thoughts of blame. To be able to recognize that is a great step in the right direction to be letting go of the pressure. So what I did is I recognized it. And then I had this realization that I want to share with you. I've had it before in the past, but it came back in that moment. And that was, I am not the center of the universe. There can be this messaging out there of you're the center of the universe. And how you could take it, which is how I took it, was, oh, okay, then that means I'm controlling everything that's happening, everyone in my life, everything in my life. And that creates intense pressure. in the body. You literally can feel it expanding and hitting against the walls of the body. I'm feeling a little bit of it right now. But that's intense. I mean, that's so much energy. And so when you can remind yourself, which is an important reminder for me, of you are not the center of the universe. You're just one part of this universe. When you can, especially if you're someone that believes in something bigger than yourself, like I do, I believe there's something bigger than myself. When I remember that and realize, oh yeah, I'm just one part of this thing, and there's a lot of things I don't control, then I can look at the situation of like, what is creating the evidence to think that I'm to blame for this situation? And what could come up is I can tell myself, oh yeah, you didn't have a call with the recycling truck to say, come on by at this time. You didn't have a call with all the pickup trucks that are coming by to say, come at this time. You didn't have a call with the people that are coming by to say, walk at this point. So all of that stuff is out of your control. So then I can have some, I can literally feel the ease, the shoulders drop, okay, yeah, this stuff's not in my control. Okay, cool. I get to just let that go. And it goes back to the evidence. Because what evidence has told you that you are actually in control of that? So that can take away a lot of situations that come up for your moments where you're blaming yourself. Of like, I can't control what that person's going to tell me. Or I can't control how my partner's going to react to the words that I'm going to share. I can't control I'm trying to think of another example. Man, I went too much. I went too many examples. But the other one could be thinking back to working out. Like, I can't control that it's raining, but I got to respond if I'm going to go out there and work out outside. So that helps to then ease a lot of pressure. You'll feel a relaxation of the body, shoulders will drop. It may be slight depending on what you're dealing with, but you'll notice that. And then it's asking yourself, how do I respond to this situation? What action do I get to decide? How am I responsible to myself in this moment? And going back to the situation where I'm recording the video, well, I have some options. And the option could be change the environment, go back inside, record the video inside. Or I can just wait till they pass by and then try again for the video. And for me, like, I waited. I like sat back. I was able to sit back. I was able to breathe. I was able to realize, oh yeah, this isn't a me thing. This is just like they're going about their lives. So I got to remember I'm not the center of the universe. I got to take a step back. And that can feel like there's a weight on the shoulders that can get dropped off. And you can feel that moment. So I did that. And then I showed up again, recorded the video. It worked out well. And then I went on with my day. And I was able, in that moment where I paused, to do something that you can do, is when you have these moments to be able to pause, to shake out the energy. Literally, you can shake out your hands. I'm doing this on video, just shaking out my hands. You can just like kind of get that, like, roll the shoulders back. Just be able to find ways to move so that you move this pressure and this tension. You might even have to take an inhale and then exhale with sound. So being like, oh, like letting it out that way. But ways to exhale the energy and move the energy out, because you will feel pressure that does come up. But instead of then going down the tornado thoughts of blame for that pattern, it's taking the responsibility for figuring out the actions that you're going to take. And before that, it's releasing and closing the stress loop out. And how you do that is it can be through exhaling the energy, moving the energy out. It's so helpful to acknowledge that and really lean in that moment, because what happens is most of the time that the emotions that you could feel, which is like is the anger, or you might be having this feeling of frustration, and you might be feeling like kind of like, like it's kind of sad of like, man, I could have gotten that video there was a video done earlier before all these people were coming by. Like, whatever it is, honor it, lean in, realize it's going to pass. This is temporary. And then move the energy out, and then be able to take that action for responsibility. And what I want to remind you is this isn't an overnight process. but you can notice a change when you first do it. It can feel empowering. And what happens is you are creating a new pattern for yourself. And so it's going to be a little awkward. It's like building a new habit. Going back to the 3 phases of a habit formation process, you have the awkward phase, where it's like awkward of trying to figure out how you're going to implement this in your day. You're also potentially having to deal with the old habit that you want to minimize for the pattern, which in this case is blaming yourself. So you're going to have to deal with that a few times of like having to have the awareness of like, oh no, I'm blaming myself right now. Let me pause. Let me go through this process of taking that responsibility on and then figuring out what I can control and what I can't control. And then being able to realize you go through the resistance phase. So that'll be the next phase where there's going to be some resistance that comes up from the body because it doesn't feel good to, let me put it this way instead. Because with anything new, it can create uncertainty for the body because you're creating a new path for your future. And that new path, there's a lot of unknowns. And the body does want to keep you safe. And so it can create a fear response and this resistance that comes up of you moving forward. It can feel like hitting against an imaginary wall. And by recognizing those sensations, you can remind yourself that, yeah, you are still on the right path, especially if the habit is something that is empowering for you, that feels energizing after you put the rep in for the habit. And then you go into the third phase, where it's the autopilot phase, where it becomes there's less friction there. It's like a habit like brushing your teeth, where you're going to be able to get to that point. But it may take a few of these cycles as life happens and you're dealing with a bunch of stuff that's happening to get it to that autopilot phase. But that's what's important to remember in this process is that it's not an overnight. It doesn't happen overnight, but you can notice a change when you first start this. And then it's just building it and reminding yourself that the patterns will always be there. As human beings, I think about that for habits. Like all of your habits are there. It's just they can get quieter. And you don't have to act on those habits because you have new habits that are much stronger, thinking back to those highways, that become a stronger highway or stronger bridge is another way to think about it. Become a stronger bridge to hold on to. And you focus more your energy on those habits that are empowering for you. And so to recap, to be able to remind you of this. Okay, so first, it's remembering that taking responsibility for yourself rather than blaming yourself. Having the awareness of why are you blaming yourself? So what is the sources of this? Because when you can recognize that, you can then notice the pattern. It can be easier to notice the pattern. Then it's remembering what you can't control, being able to remind yourself of that. And then what you can control, which is how you respond. And going back to I think about a call, did I call all these people to show up at this time when I was recording this video? No, that's absolutely ridiculous. There's absolutely not. So why am I getting pissed of blaming myself for them showing up? Makes absolutely no sense. So this is where common sense is really helpful to bring that into this. And then from there, being able to remind yourself that this isn't an overnight process, but you can start to build a new pattern, new habit. That's how you think about it. And then celebrate is the other thing. Celebrate the effort of putting in the rep. And that can be physically a celebration from the body or for the body. So I've talked about it before where I tap my shoulders, raise my arms up and I go, yeah. That's not where I started though, because it goes back to where you start isn't going to be where you end up. And so that might be just raising your arm up and be like, woo, or a head nod, all right, acknowledging yourself. But that's going to start to build some powerful trust with your body because you're reminding your body you want more of this and you're showing up for your body. You're creating these moments of empowering yourself. And that starts to build this depth of confidence. And I call it soul confidence, where you show up. It's not that surface confidence, the whole fake it till I make it situation that comes up. It's this soul confidence to know where you're headed, to have clarity as to who it is you want to become, the vision you have for your life, and you're moving towards that. It feels like you're cutting through the current of life. And man, that's a vibe that then just gets shared out with the world. And it's so cool being in those moments and those situations that come up. And we all as human beings have the capabilities to be able to tap into that. And that's another gift that you can give to yourself. And by celebrating, you're celebrating these small wins And so it's that reminder that the small wins, they lead to these big wins in life. And then with the mistakes, because they'll come, because nobody's perfect, perfection doesn't exist. When you experience a mistake along the way, or a stumble, or you get off track, being able to learn that lesson in the mistake and then letting go of the mistake and being able to show up again, put the rep in, and then move forward. And I want to remind you, you are not alone in this. Something I still work on. Like, this is part of the journey of life to making burnout extinct. It's a continuous process. There's never an end time or end destination, but there's levels that you can move through. I think about it as that video game, levels that you can move through, and they can open up new doorways of possibilities for your life that you never thought was even like, you look back, you're like, man, I didn't even know this could happen. And I know I've experienced that personally, where I'm just like, wow, man, this is a whole new world. And from there, I continue on that journey. And it comes back to appreciating that journey and really giving yourself grace in the moments where it does become intense and struggles. So if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. You as a human being are capable of this, to be able to move forward. And you got this.